Well, DairyNZ has released its policy priorities for the up-and-coming election, focusing on science, investment, future-proofing dairying and getting the right environmental policies in place. The priorities have been based on feedback received from 248 farmers that DairyNZ surveyed in July, and DairyNZ Chief Executive Tim Mackle joins us now. Good evening, Tim. Thank you so much. The work that you've gone into these 10 priorities, certainly it'd be great if you can run through them, but also at the same time, let's talk about, how far we've come in the last 3 years as well.
Yeah, hi Sarah. Look, it has been a big 3 years, hasn't it? Especially this one. Look, we did go out to farmers to really seek a voice from behind the farm gate to bring forward. And of course, a lot of different partners do that, whether it be Fed Farmers or Beef and Lamb and so on. But we've done this at least the last 3 elections I can remember, but this is a little bit different this time. We actually decided let's go and really hear from farmers first, because we did want to make sure that what we saw as the priorities for dairy farming resonated very much with what we're hearing out there, or vice versa, more to the point that we were on the button. And so I think that was a good thing. So we've come up with 10 priorities, really under 3 main categories, which come from those discussions with farmers and from what we've picked up along the way. We've just been through a big levy vote through May, and so that obviously gave us a lot of good feedback from farmers as to how they're feeling and what they want to see from us too.
So those key 3 themes that the 10 priorities are broken down to, can you explain those?
Yeah, look, just briefly, the first one's really about refocusing investment in science. And so it is really about investing to unlock more value from what we do, but also more volume, and not just for dairy, but for food and fibre more generally. We think there is a lot of opportunity to export more across food and fibre, and also at higher value. So what have we got to do to set ourselves up in terms of investment and innovation to do that? And the second part really is about investing to reduce our environmental footprint, which is really a huge challenge for us, and to drive more profit for our farmers at the same time. So that's the investing in science piece. The second one really is about future-proofing our sector. And so firstly, workforce. And, that was an issue pre-COVID. Quite frankly, it's been for quite some time. But with COVID-19 and like other sectors, but particularly dairy and hort, we've been quite disrupted with ability to bring migrant labour, which has been a really big part of our sector for quite a number of years. So that situation, as you know, Sarah, doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. So we really need a good plan for this. Fortunately, the government have really come to the party to help us with a Go Dairy campaign. It's slowed down a bit, quite frankly, in terms of numbers coming in. Probably some pull factors holding them back. But, over time, I think we'll see them all coming. So that's one good thing, but really a longer-term strategy is needed. The other piece of that future-proofing is really about infrastructure. So we're talking about water storage, mobile connectivity, broadband, that type of stuff as well. And you've also got pieces like the RMA. Of course, good to hear the government announcing some reforms coming to that as well, which is another good piece as well. And lastly, biosecurity, that future-proofing is such a big, important part. Particularly, we know the kiwifruit sector's felt that keenly, and so have we in livestock and cattle with them bovis. And the third piece really, Sarah, is about getting our environment setting and support right. So making sure that our targets, when it comes to both emissions reductions and water quality, are right, that they're fair as well, and they're really actually going to help us solve problems. And then getting us set up to support farmers to meet those. So that's a big challenge ahead of us. So those 3 key things. Mm-hmm.
I mean, the government can do so much in terms of filtering funds in certain directions, but in terms of from an industry organisation such as DairyNZ, there's a lot of work that your organisation needs to do in a lot of these places as well to seek that out. So how is there sort of a collective, more longer term approach rather than this term to term type mentality that farmers are getting fairly sick of being thrown around as a political football through?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, my own personal view, it's not a DairyNZ official view, is that this 3-year term is just too short to actually get underway and achieve some real things in between election periods. But putting that aside, I agree. I think, look, if we look at the confidence that we and farmers that we when you from the survey we conducted that you mentioned, Sarah, something like 94-95% of dairy farmers that we survey do feel proud to be in dairy, particularly at the moment, which is great. But someone, I guess, if you look at mental health issues, either the dairy farmers themselves or someone who they're connected to on their farm, in their farming business, 62% of those said that either themselves or someone on their farming business has been affected in some way by mental health in the last year. So that's quite a big number. And so there's less confidence about the future. Clearly, it's been a tough time for dairy farmers and more broadly in the livestock sector with drought, issues like that. And of course, we've had M. bovis to deal with as well in the cattle sectors. And of course, there's been a lot of regulation change or pending changes in the last term as well, as you indicate. So all those things, I think, are culminating in a level of uncertainty and COVID on top of that going forward. So it's really important that we project a positive future for farmers, and fundamentally, we've got some challenges, but at the same time, huge opportunities going forward. And I think COVID-19 has shown us that we are in a really good place here with food in New Zealand.
Mm. And where we were 3 years ago, in terms of multitudes of different manifestos, as a lot of people don't like to call them anymore, from individual industry organisations, there's been a real shift and change, hasn't there, in terms of collaborating on some of these very shared problems. Mental health is certainly one of them, rural broadband is certainly one of them, and of course so is labour shortages. Do you believe that farmers and growers across the country can see more collaboration going forward on our big tough issues every part of the primary sector faces collectively together?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Sarah, and the short answer is we must achieve more together, and farmers are demanding that, and quite rightly so. They pay levies and fees and membership fees to multiple organisations, and so they quite rightly should expect to see that level of collaboration. And I do think it's actually improved a heck of a lot. So, you talk about the last 3 years. Well, actually, this Food and Fibre Leaders Forum, which really was born really a little over 3 years ago, and when a bunch of farming leaders stood by a river in the Hawke's Bay in May, and so since then there's been a huge amount of collaboration at that level, at a very senior level through governance, and the good thing is the Prime Minister herself and senior ministers have engaged quite regularly with that group. I heard the Prime Minister today mention that, that farming leaders group has been in the top, group of that she's engaged with. There's certainly no group that she's engaged with more, would be what she'd say. And that's a really impressive bit of information, Sarah. And I would say that there's been really strong engagement. So we need to build off that with whoever comes to power in terms of the next government. But in terms of that solidarity of working together, it's definitely improving. It can get better. There's a couple of tension points when it comes to issues like allocation, and we're really going to have to work through those issues in the next period, Sarah.
Okay, and I'm just going to throw this to you, Tim. On that theme, how much of it is playing politics to ensure that you don't get the door shoved in your face, but with this particular coalition government or a red-green coalition looking likely going for another 3 years, of not stirring the pot up too much as well? If farmers are saying to me that they're not being loud enough or more vocal, and that it's all a patch protection element to make sure that we can continue to be at the table. It must be a real balancing act, Tim.
Well, I think the key thing is, we all need to work with whoever is in power in government and whatever political persuasion, and understand, the needs of broader New Zealand and of our food and fibre sector and farmers. So we've got to find a way to make that work, no matter what. I think that's a guiding principle, and you've got to be in a place where you can express our opinions, and we certainly do with the government. We all have made it very clear there are aspects of the zero carbon bill, such as the range of 24 to 47%, which we completely rejected, and we felt it wasn't based on science, certainly the science that we believe was the right one to hang your hat on. So. And I think you need to build a relationship so you can actually have those good, robust discussions, but agree on where the common ground is. So I think those days of just rejecting everything outright have gone, not only in New Zealand but across the world. And we've just got to understand that you have to express your views and be clear about what you don't agree with and the logic behind that. It is about being authentic in what you believe in, having strong logic and having a bit of empathy too for people and farmers at the moment in particular, doing a great job out there. And at the moment, Auckland's in lockdown, so there's got to be a bit of empathy for those people too. So I think it's a fair point that you've got to find ways to work with people. But rest assured, Sarah, we are absolutely expressing our clear views to the government, and they may not always agree with you, but at least they're listening.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Now, before you sneak away, Tim, I have a bit of a problem of my own. I've got a potluck dinner happening at my home tomorrow night, and I was very excited about inviting Joel, who's been with me through lockdown. He's the one person that I couldn't have got through without, yet he is stumped in terms of what to cook. He is actually quite a good cook, but I'm asking our guests and our audience today for some suggestions for Joel. What's your good go-to potluck that you'd take? Winter type theme.
Go-to potluck would probably be some kind of pasta dish, really, to be frank. But given Joel's Irish, right, maybe a meat and 3 veg sort of thing, boil the heck out of the vegetables. I'm mainly Irish, Joel, so I think I can say that, hopefully. Maybe go there. May not work well for potluck, but meat and 3 veg, maybe.
Boiled bland potatoes. Okay, that takes it number 1 so far. Thank you so much. Chief Executive of DairyNZ, Tim Mackle, working through the top 10 priorities there for the government going into this up and coming election.
This is Sarah's Country.